I really should clean up my mess on my bench before I leave after doing something, but I usually go till I run out of steam and just head in and sit down. But anyway, I'll clean things up and we'll get started. So a friend dropped this saw off a few days ago and I said I'd look at it for him and see if we can get it running smooth again. Give things a little weight down here. Oh, it's going to get messy quick here again. These Stihl saws have pretty big nuts holding things together. Anyway, we'll get them off of there and get the bar out of the way and start cleaning things up a bit. This wrench does a lot better job of doing them. Stihl makes a pretty good saw, I have to admit. I only have one of these in my collection. Actually, I've got another one out in my shed that I haven't done anything with yet, but maybe someday. There, get that out of the way. Well, it looks like it's got lots of oil flow. That's a good thing. The drive gear looks pretty healthy. Lots of sawdust and oil. Get the cover off of here. If I can. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with these. Haha. Okay. Cool. Sawdust, sawdust everywhere. That air filter looks pretty clogged up too. Give it a little compression test here. Oh yeah. Plenty there. Every saw is just a little bit different. And take your time and observe how things are fastened in, and you can usually figure out how to take them apart. Let's check the spark plug just to see how it's been burning. Tell a lot with the spark plug how the engine's running: rich, lean, too hot, too cold. Maybe just a little bit lean. But whatever oil is using is not messing up the plug, not messing up the spark plug anyway. Just put it back in there for now, loosely. And I'm going to fire up my air compressor and blow things off. Having a decent air compressor is sure helpful. You can do a lot of things. Going to be able to see stuff in there again. Keeping these vents clear is important because that's where the cooling air comes into the engine. On the flywheel, there's a fan, and it sucks air in through here and then blows it through these cooling fins on the cylinder. And that's how your saw remains cool. So if this gets plugged up, this fan on the inside isn't able to pull the air through, and your saw will overheat. So it's important to keep your saw clean if you can. I've seen saws that plug up so much sawdust in here that the cylinder doesn't get cool, and that's the end of your cylinder block. This is pretty much an oily mess. Probably going to have to use some Varsol on this one to get all the residue off. This stuff's really good for cleaning up oily surfaces, and it's cheaper than using brake clean. Get the worst of it off here anyway. And we can go over it with a cleaner rag. Now, when I'm working on something, I always look for clues like this. That got really hot. But when I investigate further, it's because this is right beside where the exhaust comes out. A little bit of a design mismanagement on Stihl's part at the time, I guess, but no harm really. Another thing I like about Varsol is it doesn't evaporate overly quickly, and it kind of soaks into the dirty stuff that you want to remove, and it gives you time to wipe it down with a little bit of that residue on there too with a clean rag. Does a pretty good job. When you have to watch, it's flammable, so you don't want to necessarily do it on a hot engine. Well, that took a bit of time just getting things cleaned up. So now we can get into seriously finding out why it's not running right. Good place to start is with the fuel tank. Take the fuel cap out of the way and do the sniff test. Well, I'm not really into sniffing gas, but it's a great way to tell whether it's bad or not, whether it's been sitting for a long time, but it smells fresh. Looks like there's good mix in there. The filter looks clean, and fuel line looks good. Just give it a feel here, see it, make sure that it's not real soft and sucking itself flat. Initially, it looks good. We might have to come back to that later. I don't know. I don't think so, just in the appearance of it. And we'll check the oil here now that we're into checking that kind of stuff, in case we do start it. And oh yeah, plenty of oil in there. Sticky stuff too. It looks like decent chain oil. You don't want to be using just plain motor oil. See how there's threads in that? And that helps that oil stick to the bar, keep the chain lubricated as it rotates. I have to address this loose end too. I hate stuff that's hanging out like that. Didn't use my air compressor nozzle to blow directly on that filter. Because what can happen is there's a lot of pressure comes out those nozzles, and you can actually force the dirt that's been already filtered by this air filter in past the filter. So you have to be careful. You don't want to put excessive pressure on there. Now let's pull this apart. I should get a bigger screwdriver. Oh, that one worked. And lots of dust on this side of it too. So it filters from both sides. So it would take a fair amount of sawdust to restrict that. But we'll address that in a minute. Next thing you want to look for is you look down the carburetor here, and you look for signs of debris in the air duct into the venturi into the carburetor, and it's been staying clean. I don't see any dust or debris. inside there at all. So that air filter has been doing its job very well. I noticed when I was trying to activate this on-off switch and choke, it's on, off, and choke all at the same time, that this grounding strap was getting caught on here when I tried to activate it. You can see how it's not smooth, but it should be smoother than that. So I'm going to try a little dab of grease on there and see if I can get it to run a little smoother. Well, this syringe came years ago when I used to fill the printer ink. You used to be able to buy ink in little bottles, and then you'd use this needle here for refilling your original cartridges. So rather than tossing them after it was done, I kept them. I filled this tube full of grease, and the tip of that is perfect for lubing. You see a little bit of grease that come out there, so little areas like this that I'm trying to lubricate is perfect, so you don't end up with a big mess all over. Still, you see how it's wanting to lift that up there? I'm afraid that it's going to bend that spring. The lubrication isn't helping this much so far anyway. Try a little bit more further down. Well, it's a little better, but it's still pretty stiff. I wonder if that's been bent in the past. Definitely smoother. Well, it's getting there. Yeah, this has been bent. You can see a bit of a bend in it here, and it's supposed to drop down like that because there's a detent on this side, and it wasn't going down there. It was getting hung up on this top piece when it shouldn't have. And this is how you shut it off. This particular gray wire goes down to the coil, and when this little brass piece here is grounded to this ground strap, it shuts off the ignition coil so that it doesn't produce spark and it shuts your engine off. What was happening was this was hanging up on top of this, and this ground strap was staying grounded to that wire. So certainly wouldn't have ran if that was the case. Interesting. I wonder if that was what he was experiencing. When this little lever is fully down, that is supposed to apply the choke. And it's not really doing that. This is supposed to lift up on this lever here to close the choke. But it's not fully closing the choke. And when you pull the throttle, it's supposed to turn the choke off. But it's not. It did it a couple of times, but still something not quite right there. I'm going to have to figure that out. So this little spring is not bent right. I tried to straighten it with it in its holder, but you can see these little things are so sensitive to where they have to be, and there's a bit of a fold in it here, and it's not putting the proper tension on this assembly down here that it needs to ride in. Kind of hard to tell, but it has to slide down. Got to touch on that for the ground when it's shut off, and then it goes into that position when it's running. And then there's one further down below it, right down there. So that's the choke. And then when you hit the throttle, it's supposed to bounce off this cam onto this next one. So anyway, it's not doing that, and I have to somehow get that spring sorted out so that it rides smoothly on that cam. Well, that's about as close as I've got it so far. The choke is staying fully closed. I can't see any gaps in the throat of the carb. But when I pull the throttle, that choke is supposed to release, and it just takes a little bit of a nudge to get it to come off. So now I got to figure out what do I need to do that. Now, choke is fully going closed. The detent there and then the off detent are all working great. So one more step to go. Getting so close. Took a lot of finagling here, man. Spent quite a bit of time on this, figuring this out. So I finally got the spring working the way that it's supposed to. Now to set the choke, you push the throttle in and you push all the way down to activate the choke, and you can see the throttle plate is closing. So then when I activate the throttle, that's when you give it a few pulls, and once it fires, then you open up your throttle and that turns the choke off. So that's the off position there, and that little thing there has to touch this in order to shut the engine off, and it's doing that. So, and the action of it is, oh, gotta push the throttle first. Yeah, perfect. Whew. Fuel line looks good. Nice and flexible. Seems to be sealed onto that carburetor all right. I think I'm going to try and fire it up just to see if maybe the whole issue was there. I'm going to shoot a little gas in the spark plug hole and give it a helping hand and see what happens. Okay, let's go try it. Choke on. Fast idle is on. What's going to happen here? Uh-oh. Take the choke off. Give it some fast idle. No. Give it a little squirt. One thing I didn't do, check for spark. Well, that's interesting. I'm not getting any spark. This is a brand new spark plug tester. It's just a cheap one too, so maybe we'll take that out of the equation. bit of spark there, but boy, sure is weak looking. I think I'm going to check the gap on that ignition coil. It might be too far away from the flywheel magnet, causing that weak spark. End up plenty of rope on that rewind. Probably a little bit too much. I'll be able to trim that off anyway. Anyhow, let's have a look at that coil. See what our gap is like. Well, not excessive. Clean that up when I'm in here. Look at this coil wire too. Well, I'm not seeing anything right away. Worn through that protector there a little bit. Oh, not enough. There was enough spark that it should have at least kicked a little bit. Oh, so we finally got a new ignition coil out here. And time to put it on and give it a try and see if we've got some better spark for this old Stihl. Take the rewind off again. Oh, tighten that on there pretty good. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot easier. Well, there's the old ignition coil. I'll take it off, put the new one on. It screws out. Take that off. Undo the wires here. Oh, that's well on there. I don't like that way they designed this part of it. That coil wire has to come around. They could have made it so that the coil wire come out this side here and straight up. Looks quite an area of where the spark could jump off the ground here. Oh well, I didn't design it. We'll just push back on the coil so it's furthest back as it'll go, and then we'll just gently snug those screws in. And we'll rotate the flywheel up to the magnet portion so that the magnet is right by the coil. And then we need to find a piece of paper thickness of a business card to go in there to space out enough between the magnet and the coil. It should do just fine. And then when we loosen these screws, that coil should pull itself up against the magnets like it did just there. And then we tighten up the screws. pull the business card out. And then rotate the flywheel, make sure that it's not touching on the coil. And we're in business. I'll pull the spark plug out again. Makes it easier to rotate. And we'll make sure that this coil is good. And we've got good spark once more. Put the rewind back on. That in there to keep it in place while I put the other screws back in. Don't tighten it right up until you get all the threads started. This one has a little different setup on it because that chain brake has to rotate, so this doesn't allow the screw to tighten on the chain brake handle itself. Iron out. Once we got them all down in far enough, we can go ahead and tighten them all up. Now, the question remains, do we have decent spark again? Turn the light out here so we can see the spark jump a little better. What have we got? Oh yeah, we got good spark. You can see it jumping all over the place here now. Okay, let's put things back together and see if she's going to fire this time. Are you here cheering me on, Maisie? Hey? We're going to have good luck this time? Hey? Yeah, I think so. Thought I had the camera turned on, but apparently I didn't. Anyway, it fired, but, well, which is a step up from the last time. But I think the carb settings are way out of whack, so I'm going to start fresh with high and low speed jet, and then we'll take it from there. So I took the little rubber cover off of here, and I set both the low and high speed jets at one full turn out, and we'll see if we can get her to operate here now. Don't know whether to choke it or not, because it was running. So anyway, let's see what happens here. Well, that went pretty well. Maybe I'll put everything back together, and hopefully I can adjust the high and low speed with the cover all on, because I like to set everything with the air filter on there, because as you when you put on the air filter, it changes the airflow and you don't always get the settings right. But I'm pretty pleased with the way that it's running right there now. We've got the air filter in place, and we'll start it back up again and fine-tune the jets a little bit more. And once I get the bar back on and the chain and everything, we can do the final adjustments, and we can send it back, cut some more wood. I don't think we need the choke. just leave it on fast idle. Give it a pull here, see what happens. Well, dull chain or not, I'm going to have to make sure that she runs at high speed, so let's give it a go. Might be a little bit rich on the high side, but it cut. I'll give it a little bit more of a tweak, but I think she's pretty much ready to go.